Ya da da da, ya da da da. What's up guys, welcome back. So today we're going to be playing with some new stuff from Lisa Eldridge. I had ordered some in the past. I have one of her velvet lipsticks. I had two of her lip glosses. And in this release, I bought two of her new liquid blushes and another one of her lip glosses in a shade that I thought was going to look better on me than the previous two because I waited a little too long to order my lip glosses the last time. And I ended up with some deeper shades that were just harder for me to wear. So I already have just my Chantecaille Future Skin foundation on, a little bit of my Thrive concealer, and just a little tiny bit of the Oma contour stick. I don't have bronzer on or anything because a few people had commented the last time that I did the Pat McGrath blushes that they wished I had held off on bronzer before I put the blushes on so that they could really see the true tone of the blushes better. So that's what I did today. And I have in her blushes these shades Pink Soap and Pink Poetry. A lot of people who might be very intimately familiar with the release and or very intimately familiar with my channel might have thought that I would go for Mountain Walk. Mountain Walk, she describes as, you know, the same way I describe Fjord's cheeks, having been running around in cold weather, that natural flush of the cheeks. The thing is, I went solely on these shades when I chose them, and then I watched her explainer video after I made the order because I knew they were gonna sell out. So I was just kind of hasty with my order. And when I saw that shade, I didn't really think too hard about the name of that shade, but I saw it and I said, that is a raspberry that doesn't, I've decluttered at least 3 of that shade before. It has to have something that pulls it a little bit bluer or a little bit dustier, just something to really anchor it on my complexion, and that particular tone, just the training of my eye knows that it's not going to give me that effect. I don't think it would look bad, but it just didn't appeal to me when I was picking my shades. I think if she restocks, I'll probably buy it anyway, but I do know me and I know I've decluttered a few of those already. And I do want to say also, watching her tutorial video and her introduction of the blushes and watching her apply them on herself, on her models and things like that, seeing them on the palette, the way that she describes them, the same way that complexion products will tend to have almost like an undertone bias to them sometimes. I feel like her blushes in particular have a slight bias towards true pink, more so than a dusty, mauvey, like nuanced kind of cooler undertone. And that's not a bad thing necessarily, but I did have trouble finding what I would consider to be like my favorite kinds of shades. To borrow or paraphrase Hannah Louise Poston, you know, I like when things have a little bit of like sooty muckiness to them, and you know, it helps it have its own presence on the skin rather than just feeling like you're kind of like mixing to match. And for a makeup artist like Lisa Eldridge, and for the price, because these are $34 a piece, it's a luxury item. I did expect to get more nuanced colors. They are a little bit like true straight down the middle of what they are. So I already have, like I said, some complexion product on. I'm going to apply these and talk through them, and I'll swatch the lip glosses and apply one of them. And then I will, you know, finish up my makeup and we will talk about the claims and stuff like that. And then I'll give you my final thoughts at the end. So let's go ahead and jump in. Okay, hi, hello. This is going to happen pretty quickly. So this is the component. She did show it, you know, on her channel as well. I adore this. This is so elegant. What an elegant solution to have the tube itself as it opens up just have a little bit of that showing on the outside so that you can see the shade. So as I said, I have the shades Pink Soap and Pink, I keep wanting to say Peony, Pink Poetry. In lieu of something being really subtle and unexpected, I kind of went with what I thought would look really good on me. I do think that Pink Poetry is, the way she describes it is it's kind of shocking when you first see it, but the way that it goes on is actually really subtle and beautiful. And Pink Soap, I love her description of that, by the way, just the nostalgia behind it. It is very much like right down the middle of what I think will always look good on me, you know, in anybody's shade ranges. So I'm going to start with a little bit of the Pink Soap, and while I am typically a tools person. The reason that I do that is because I put on a lot more blush than the average bear, and it just takes forever if I'm working with as small of a tool as a human finger. But I also know that using a tool like a brush or a sponge is going to maybe change the consistency of a product from the standpoint of like absorbing moisture. So I'm going to start by doing it her way first so that you guys can see. She says to kind of draw a line from, I guess, like your pupil or something, and, you know, apply the blush past there. I'm very much a put it right on the apples of my cheek kind of person. It has a consistency that is neither dewy nor matte, and it's supposed to blend, as she calls it, seamless skin. It's supposed to blend seamlessly into the skin. And she's one of the, you know, pioneers, one might say, of the whole blush draping, blush watercolor, layering, doing all the, you know, different shapes with blush and everything, and just having a lot of experimental play, kind of fun with blush. And this formula lends itself so well to that because, you know, yes, I am kind of going in and building this up again and then kind of spreading it out. But even with that amount, you know, kind of like one layer and then like another layer applied on part of that, it's still such a subtle difference side to side. And she actually has a model in her video who is, you know, self-proclaimed afraid of blush. She has kind of like an Indian, like golden undertone olive complexion. And she's like, I hate blush, it's terrifying, you know, and she is very pleased by the subtlety of the shades because, you know, they look really, really bright before they go on, but the consistency of them is so nice and sheer. And I think that that makes them a very, very good beginner formula. One thing that I did notice about them, and I'll go ahead and do this on the other side while I talk, is that if you are wearing a foundation or maybe not quite enough skin prep that maybe leaves your skin feeling a little bit dry, these will kind of also look dry. And I found that when I first applied them, that was the case. I don't remember what I put them on top of, but I think I put them on top of a powder bronzer is what happened. And they sort of absorbed that powder and they looked a little bit different, and maybe also because I was using a brush to apply them initially. But I would recommend just using a spray afterwards. Like I love this one, mainly the Tower 28 SOS spray, the Daily Rescue facial spray. If you spray enough of this on there, it will hydrate everything on your face. It's not a setting spray per se, but it adds dewiness, and I appreciate that about it. Also, it's pH balanced and, you know, salinated and whatever, electrolytes, something like that. It's very good for your skin. That is a very light, I mean, light for me, coating of pink soap, and I adore this shade. I think I will swatch it against the Salt New York pigments just because this really strikes me as so similar to Rose. So I will pull those out when we do all the claims and comparison and everything. Very different consistency though. The pigments from Salt New York have a dewiness to them that dries down a bit but doesn't completely dry down, and these also don't completely dry down, but they dry down more than that. Like I said, they are prone to kind of adapting to whatever the finish on your skin was prior to applying them, more so than having their own texture presence. Kind of like the Daniel Sandler ones. I would definitely compare them to the Daniel Sandler gel, the gel watercolor creams. And that one doesn't have as large of a shade range, I don't think, but the consistency is very similar, but they are more pigmented than this. I'm going to go in the same way with the Enlivening Blush in Pink Poetry. The consistency itself is so beautifully creamy. She called it like a microcapsulated pigment sphere sort of thing, and it also has diamond dust in it that is, you know, makes it refractive to the light. Yeah, sounds great, Lisa. Like, I'm here for all of that. So I definitely notice that it has that soft, almost like mineral to the touch kind of feel to it when you're, you know, rubbing a swatch on the back of your hand. It feels velvety, and I think that that's one of those textures that, you know, doesn't necessarily show its strengths on something like my skin, because my skin is, well, 34 years old, but that kind of texture translates really well to mature skin because it is less likely to settle and it is less likely to accentuate texture. So it has a blurring effect to it, which is very welcome. in all of our lives. I don't know anybody who's like, less blur. Less blur. Who's putting it on her eyes? Khaki's putting it on her eyes. Yeah, a little goes a long way with this bright pink color. And as a person who is much more comfortable using a tool to apply this, I will say fingers work just fine. It's so agreeable. And so, you know, I end up with something that I feel very, very comfortable putting on with my fingers. I'm not going to lie to you and say that like I'm going to have that level of patience every single day. I would probably pull out a brush any other day because it's just easier, and I do want to put about twice as much on. So I'm gonna let this sit here while we talk about the lips real quick, and then I will probably put more blush on when I get done with my eyes. So I just swatched the 3 glosses that I have from her. So this is Myth, Beauty, and Muse. Muse is gonna be the one that I put on today because, you know, I've had Myth and Beauty for a while and I have just not figured out how to make them work on me. Not that the color doesn't work, it's just that I realized that I bought the ones that are more pigmented, and she does describe this formula as more of a hybrid formula. It's not specifically just a gloss. It's supposed to be nourishing and also, you know, medium to high pigment depending on the shade. And I definitely got the high pigment shades, I think. And Muse was one that I saw on several people's channels after the fact. And I was like, well, as soon as she restocks, I'm definitely getting that. So I'm gonna go ahead and put this one on. Not a big fan of this applicator. It reminds me of the one from Lila B for their lip oil. And because it has this sort of velvet tip on the end of it, it kind of wants to catch on your lips. It's like you can't get enough product on there to get it to really slip. There we go. There we go. This is the closest, I think, starting to kind of drag a little bit, in the line to something that does have that kind of like subtle neutral to cool undertone, but it's still like peachy, you know? It's still a little bit peachy for my taste. And in her lipstick, I have Velvet Fawn, still a little bit peachy. I would love to see her come out with something that does have like more lavender in it, you know? Even like her raspberry, like I said, that Mountain Walk shade, it's very pink, and I would love to see a little bit more like blue lavender in there. So I also didn't initially love these lip glosses because when I did wear them, I found that they had a lot of pigment and not a lot of gloss, you know? And I had to kind of adjust my expectations wearing Muse because it actually is incredibly long wearing for a lip gloss. I feel like she kind of split the difference on wanting something that looks more like a lip gloss, but doesn't really feel very much like a lip gloss. It's nourishing, but it also, like, it's almost like the blush in the sense that it doesn't commit necessarily to being like, I'm gonna be really dewy and shiny, which is what you think of with a lip gloss. It's a lip gloss in the sense of how it applies because it's in a tube and you apply it with a little wand, but the behavior of it is somewhere between a liquid lipstick. It's like 20% liquid lipstick, 80% lip gloss. And I do want to clarify that it does not behave at all like one of those super slippy liquid lip balms. Not at all. It's lipsticky feeling, like balmy lipsticky feeling. A little bit more like a very pigmented lip oil, but it stays on for a long time. Yesterday I wore it and I ended up putting on like lip balm on top of it when I went outside. And when I came back in, it looked like lip liner because I had basically just rubbed it off of the middle, but like the rest of it had really stuck around. Even this subtle of a color on me that's basically almost the same color as my lips, the color stuck around. And I think that while that isn't my expectation coming into a lip gloss, once you understand how the formula behaves, it could be exactly what you were looking for, you know? I'm going to finish my eye makeup real quick, and then we'll come back and probably put on a little bit more blush. And then I'm gonna swatch it against the blushes, against all the things that I think are similar enough to them to, you know, bear some kind of comparison, and then I'll give you my final thoughts. Okay, hi. Yeah, I feel really incomplete without more blush on, so that's where we're going with this. Now that you've gotten a chance to see it how Lisa would probably prefer that I put it on. No, I mean, apply it. She doesn't care how I wear it, you know? So, I'm going to start with more pink soap. But what's so beautiful about this is its buildability. And I will say, I don't think my face really ate it. That always happens with cream blushes where I end up applying more because I feel like my skin kind of soaked in all of the emollients of the blush anyway. And so it looks like I didn't put as much on, but I don't think this did that. I think I just literally want more blush on. And we've talked about this with eyeshadows, like liquid eyeshadow formulas, and it is just as relevant when it comes to a liquid or cream blush. It has to be able to feather at the edges, and that's, oh, this just, it really kind of puts itself on in that sense, because as you're putting it on, it really wants to feather. And I would expect nothing less, because that's definitely Lisa Eldridge's aesthetic, is just such blended, feathered out, beautiful, soft makeup, you know? I mean, she experiments and she does really beautiful avant-garde things too, but it's always pretty. So that's the level of pink soap that I want to wear. And then I'm gonna go in with a little bit more, and when I say a little bit, I mean a little bit of Pink Poetry. I love these names though. I just like them. I think that they're really lovely. And I like that as I'm applying this, it's not giving me coverage really. It's giving me a really great amount of pigment, but it is giving me the exact amount that I wanted to put on my skin. You don't ever see like panic in my eyes, which happens, but also I can see my freckles. And then, you know, I'll work backwards from here with a little bit of concealer, or just wipe some of it off, you know? But I wanna get the saturation, the full saturation where I want it, right there, kind of at the apples. She did say that this color in particular had like a visually lifting effect on the cheeks, and I agree. I'm gonna use a slightly more precise brush to get in here, kind of get that brightness. And then I also do want to go in with a little bit of bronzer now that we have, you know, shown what this blush is capable of. So I'm going to go in with my Patrick Ta bronzer, beautiful powder formula, and just on the back right there of my cheeks, kind of where my face turns, you know. Whoop. And then up here on my hairline, again, like front of my face is fairly flat, front of my face, and then where it kind of starts to angle back. That's where I'm putting my bronzer. Here's that Oma stick, a little bit of highlight, just because it's very, I don't usually put on highlighter, if you guys have noticed that, but it's a very Lisa Eldridge vibe to have that textural highlight. Make sure that that looks nice and wet to the eye. I will finish this off here. That is the way that I would wear her blushes. And as you can see, this lip gloss has managed to stay really balmy and glossy and keep its pigment. And it really does behave somewhere in between a gloss and a lipstick. Very interesting. It's a very, very interesting formula. All right, I'm gonna move you guys out. We're gonna talk pricing and claims and swatches, and then I will give you my final thoughts. My child is awake. I hear bang, bang, bang downstairs. An elephant in the room is perhaps that I didn't buy her highlighter. And that is because I just was not excited about it. It's not about her. I'm just not excited about a liquid highlighter. You guys know I'm very, very, very cynical about shimmer goos. And I just didn't see myself being like, oh my God, game-changing shimmer goo. It just wasn't like palatable to me at the moment that I was looking at this stuff. And you know, it's all about timing. So, the lip gloss is called the Gloss Embrace Lip Gloss, and it comes in 10 shades, and I got Muse, like I said, that's what's on me right now, and it is $25 for 4.5 milliliters or 0.15 fluid ounces. 25 bucks for a lip gloss is not crazy, fam. They're very, very cool. I like them a lot. The description says, embellish your lips with a smooth, non-sticky veil of color while simultaneously replenishing them with nourishing oils and butters. A gloss and lip care hybrid with key lip care ingredients including wild mango kernel butter, acai berry oil, sunflower seed oil, and vitamin E oil. And one of the things that I often find with formulas like this that kind of have those claims is that they are either too oily or they wear off incredibly quickly. I love right when I put on the Ilia Balmy glosses, but they don't last very long. And most of the time if something does last a while, like the Vesca does last a while, but it is something very present on your lips, even though it's not sticky, it's very, very there. And this is not, it's just not like either one of those things. It's a very, very agreeable formula. especially as something that you kind of want it to look exactly like it's going to look all day when you put it on. It's not like a gloss that kind of fades to a color. It's gonna look this kind of, you know, subtle, creamy, healthy lip thing all day. That's what it's gonna do. And I will say, like, a lot of them look cooler online than they actually are. Like, Beauty looks like it's going to be a dusty kind of mauve color, and it is full on rose pink in person. So I feel like a lot of her line kind of wants to lean true pink, like English rose pink. And then the Enlivening Blush. It's $34, and these are all sold out. There are 6 shades. It says a hybrid formula with blurring and lifting skincare ingredients and packed with actives including rosemary leaf extract, bilberry, and raspberry seed oils. This cruelty-free product is vegan and free of parabens, talc, nylon 12, D6, D5, and alcohol. It's blurring with a skin-like finish, and it has those key actives in it that, you know, a lot of times there's a slight upcharge on these kinds of things when they do have beneficial skincare ingredients in them. I do get a little bit annoyed when we talk about vitamin E because vitamin E is in everything. It is also known as tocopherol. Like, you can talk about it as if it's a perk, but it's literally in everything. Yeah, for that you get 0.15 milliliters or 0.5 fluid ounces for your $34. Yeah. That's that. Let me go grab some comparison things to swatch. Yeah, da da da. Yeah, da da da. Oh my god, you guys, I'm finally getting the hang of putting the swatches on so that they show when I hold them up to the camera. So I'm not gonna say this is in the world's most intuitive order here, but these two right here are the Lisa Eldridge shades. So this is Pink Poetry and this is Pink Soap. Now, Pink Soap, as you can see, is very similar to this one right here, which is the Tower 28. What's it called? Magic Hour. And it is like the rosiest one, and it is also very, very similar to Rose from Salt, New York. So this is Rose from Salt, New York, and just here on the other side of Pink Poetry is Raspberry from Salt, New York. Soft New York, Salt, New York. So those are going to be kind of the most similar in tone. Here are the two Daniel Sandler shades that I have that are the closest to this. This is Nectar and this is Petal. As you can see, they are quite orange still in comparison. So they're up here, but the formula is very similar. This is Fume from Phytosurgeons. And then this is actually Frisson from Illamasqua, and it is like the prettiest lavender adjuster shade. It kind of reminds me a little bit of, like, you know, Salt, New York lilac, although lilac is quite purple. So I guess we chat final thoughts now. I think that for exactly what you would expect as a Lisa Eldridge lover, you are getting both a nuance of formula, absolutely a nuance of formula. A flexible, easy to use, beginner-friendly formula on both the lip and the cheek. But yes, but it depends on what color you choose in the lip and your skin tone. Because if you have a deep skin tone, you can probably manipulate those deeper colors a lot better than I can. And if you are fairer, I would definitely, like, you're going to have to pay a lot less attention to it over the day if you choose a lighter, you know, less saturated shade, obviously. But I've like noticed a huge difference there. You know, if I wear that really, really intense Myth color, I'm like worried about it. Whereas this wears thoughtlessly all day. So keep that in mind. But the blushes, I really feel like now that I've tried the formula, I feel like I could wear any single shade in it and make it work because the formula is so agreeable. $34 is not crazy for a half an ounce of a really beautiful prestige blush formula that is so different. It is minerally pigmented with this really lovely, I don't know, it's a little bit kind of silicone-y feeling, but not really. It more just has what she's calling that micro capsule sort of feeling to it, but it also refracts light in a really beautiful way. And I do genuinely think that it will work on many, many, many skin maturities and obviously many skin types and colors. And also, I like that I can change my mind with what I want the finish of the blush to be like, kind of like Daniel Sandler, like I said, where it sort of adapts to whatever I then apply it with. So it's like if I apply it with really dewy skincare underneath or put a really dewy spray on top of it, it completely changes its identity and just works along with that, totally uncomplaining. But the main thing is the application is just, it's so easy. I always think applying blush is easy, but like if you're used to the cloud paints are kind of obnoxious. Like you almost always end up with too much product on your face, no matter how little you put on. You end up kind of wiping a lot of it off. And that's fine because, you know, they are long wearing and they mix beautifully and like they have enough benefits, I feel like, that's kind of worth them being a little bit weird to work with sometimes. But this, if you're used to that, this is going to feel like it's putting itself on for you because it's just so easy. It's easier than putting on a powder blush. It feels like such a beginner-friendly formula. And as far as the lip gloss is concerned, like I said, pigmentation is probably the only really big consideration that I would have here, and also that I wish that the colors were truer to what they look like online, or vice versa, that the pictures looked more like what they do when you get them in person, because like I said, that beauty shade looks like it's going to be very beautifully cool undertoned, have a little bit of lavender in it, and it is like pink, 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 bam, pink, pink, pink. I'll go ahead and put it on. Pink. It goes with my dress though. So this is a good example actually of, like I said, since it's more pigmented, I need to be more careful putting it on because it is assigning a new identity to my lips. It's not my lips, but better. I don't like it. I don't like that color on me, you know? And I don't like how now it made my whole face look kind of like peach in contrast. And I feel like I kind of had a bait and switch. Not like anybody had any malicious intent, but it feels like a little bit of a bait and switch because the shade looks so different online than it does in person. The formula is unreal. It's very different from anything else I have ever used. This color, Muse, oh my God. It is truly the color of my lips. It's just not often that you find something like that, you know? And I feel like you, again, would, in the case of makeup artist owned brands, so much of the time, you know, you set your expectations really high because you love that person, and it's often hard to detach those things, but I love that this feels exactly like I would hope would come from her because it feels like I'm buying her experience. That's the best thing about a makeup artist owned line, is that you are literally trading your money for borrowed decades of experience in the formulas. And I always say it's kind of a tightrope that they have to walk, where they have all of this expertise. Like, it's innovative, but also it's extremely user-friendly for anybody. This is probably the easiest initiation you could have into liquid blush. And, you know, I hope I've done a good job communicating the nature of this lip formula, because, you know, it might be that all of those descriptions are like, oh, well, that's not what I wanted. And for some people, it might be like, oh, finally. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. That is my whole review of Lisa Eldridge's stuff that I have so far. And if you found this valuable, do give it a thumbs up, guys. If you want to keep hanging out with me on this channel, hit the button down below and subscribe. I would love it if you guys did. Thank you so much for watching and for hanging out with me today. I love you guys so much, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.